To all of you, today we are going to have a CME on approach to a patient presenting with vertigo. Please present with the marks. Let's go. Very thirsty. Approach the patient. What is it? So before approaching to a patient presenting with vertigo, we should know what is vertigo is exactly. Vertigo is an illusion, means it is not real. It is just a feeling or perception of movement of self or environment, because we all know that environment moves, and also the patient who complains of vertigo also does not move. He is static and still he says that I am feeling motion either of the self or the surrounding. So it is an illusion, it is not real. Vertigo is a feeling. It is a feeling of movement of the self or the environment. So one thing is clear, that is what is vertigo. And now we are going to approaching a patient presenting with vertigo. So we will be discussing the entire CME under 4 major headings. First is history. Second will be examination. Third will be testing. And fourth will be differential diagnosis. Differential diagnosis. We are going to discuss the vertigo under these headings: history, examination, and testing. Since in case of vertigo, history and examination are very important and they almost diagnose the cases. That's why these testing is also called ancillary testing, means supporting testing. They are not primary for the diagnosis, they are ancillary. So it is also called ancillary testing and differential diagnosis. Now let us start with the history part. In history, we have to focus on two things. Number one, duration. Duration. For how many seconds, minutes, hours, days, or weeks does this feeling of movement of self or the environment persist? So this is called duration. And another important part is associated symptoms. Associated symptoms. Associated symptoms like unilateral hearing loss, and acute oral symptoms. Oral symptoms means symptoms related to ear, like pain, pressure, fullness, or tinnitus, new onset tinnitus, like pain, pressure, fullness and new onset tinnitus. So these are the associated symptoms. What can be other symptoms? Diplopia means double vision. Diplopia, dysarthria, and limb ataxia. These associated, so we have to focus on duration and associated symptoms. And associated symptoms can be unilateral hearing loss and acute oral symptoms like ear pain, pressure, feeling of pressure in the ear, fullness in the ear, or tinnitus. Or there may be another group of symptoms: diplopia, dysarthria, and limb ataxia. These things, unilateral hearing loss and acute oral symptoms, suggest peripheral vestibular disorder, and diplopia, dysarthria, and limb ataxia suggest central vestibular disorders. One thing I would like to tell you, this vertigo, that feeling of movement of the self or the environment, can be due to arrhythmia, anxiety also, but we are here discussing vertigo which is of vestibular in origin. That is primarily, most of the time it is vestibular in origin. So we are talking about the vestibular vertigo of vestibular origin. So associated symptoms, peripheral vestibular disorder. How we can assess that is a peripheral vestibular disorder? When there is hearing loss or ear pain or pressure in the ear, fullness in the ear, tinnitus. When these symptoms related, when there is unilateral hearing loss and oral symptoms in ear, then it is peripheral vestibular disorder. When there is diplopia, dysarthria, and ataxia, then this is central vestibular disorder. Okay, because diplopia, dysarthria, these things can be found in brainstem lesion or cerebellar lesion. And what is the importance of duration? For how long the nystagmus was present? So it can be in history taking, duration, and associated symptoms. These 2 points are very important. And what is the importance of duration? Duration, vertigo can be for seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks. This vertigo can persist for seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks. So if examples, seconds to minutes. Vertigo that persists for seconds to minutes, that can be benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, and orthostatic hypotension. Static hypotension. Vertigo that persists for seconds to minutes, this can be BPPV, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, and orthostatic hypotension. But there is slight difference between this. This positional vertigo is present even when the patient rolls on the bed, because that is due to change of position. But this orthostatic hypotension will not happen on rolling over the bed. It will happen only when the patient sits up and it stands up. Then only it happens. So there is difference. And mean hours. For hours, vertigo that can persist for hours can be vestibular, and this vestibular migraine, and this vestibular migraine is minutes to hours, few minutes to hours, vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. I will be telling about these things. Minutes to hours, vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. If the duration of vertigo is for hours, it can be vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. You should just omit this one because that will create confusion. Hours. If the migraine persists for hours, it can be due to vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. What is Meniere's disease? In Meniere's disease, there is vertigo and low frequency unilateral sensory neural hearing loss, and that is called Meniere's disease. And when it persists for days to weeks, then again this can be vestibular migraine. This vertigo vestibular migraine can persist from hours to days to weeks. Vestibular migraine and one another vertigo that can persist for weeks, means weeks also constitutes months. That is psychosomatic and functional vertigo. Psychosomatic and functional vertigo, and this psychosomatic and functional vertigo is typically a feeling of patient, chronic feeling of imbalance and disequilibrium which lasts for 3 months or more, and this is present when the patient is at rest, and it becomes worse upon standing. So this is the importance of duration of vertigo. If the duration of vertigo is for seconds to minutes, it is benign paroxysmal positional vertigo and orthostatic hypotension. If it is hours, then it can be vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. And if it is for days to weeks, then again it will be vestibular migraine and psychosomatic and functional vertigo. And I have already told the importance of associated symptoms. When there is unilateral symptom in the ear like hearing loss, tinnitus, pain, pressure, fullness, then that shows peripheral vestibular disorder. And when there is diplopia, dysarthria and ataxia, then it shows lesion at the level of cerebellum or brain stem, that is central vestibular disorders. Because vestibular system is a very detailed system that starts from the semicerebral canals, that is peripheral vestibular system, and that goes to the vestibular spinal tract to the higher centers, so in the brain stem. So that is another thing, but for practical purposes I am telling you, if there is hearing loss along with the pain in the ear, tinnitus in the ear, fullness in the ear in one side, it is due to peripheral vestibular disorders. When there is diplopia, dysarthria, ataxia along with vertigo, it is central vestibular disorder. And unilateral hearing loss is practically not possible with central vestibular damage, because vestibular pathway, upon entering the brain stem, it becomes bilateral. So unilateral hearing loss is unlikely in central vestibular disorders. Understood? Now the second part. So duration and associated symptoms. These are important. This is the history part. Now the examination. In examination, we primarily look for three things: eye movement, vestibular function, and hearing loss. Examination of vertigo. In case of patient presenting with vertigo, examination part focuses primarily on eye movement, vestibular function, and hearing. So for eye movement, we primarily look for nystagmus. Nystagmus gives clues about the involvement of the vestibular system. So we look for nystagmus. Nystagmus is a jerky movement, and it has two phases, a fast phase and a slow phase, and the direction of nystagmus is defined by the movement of fast phase. So, and vestibular function, we assess vestibular function through impulse, head impulse testing. Head impulse testing. What we do in head impulse testing? We rotate the head for 20 degree, nearly 20 degree, and that is an approximate measurement of assessment of the person doing it. 20 degree, we rotate head by 20 degree from the central position and do it very quickly. So that causes when there is vestibular hypofunction, the eye wall rotates very slowly after rotation. In normally when we rotate our head, our eye moves in the opposite direction instantaneously to maintain the visual balance. Otherwise, we will feel dizziness or vertigo, because if we know that any image of the retina, any image that is formed on the retina, that persists for 10 seconds, one tenth of a second. So that is here applicable. When we in normal condition, when we rotate our head suddenly while moving or while looking at someone, then our gaze automatically moves in the opposite direction instantaneously to maintain the equilibrium. Otherwise, this vision and this vision will be totally disconnected. If it will not be happen, if so, and that's why we maintain our gaze to that one while moving in this direction. That happens very quickly and spontaneously. That is called visuo-ocular reflex. That is called VOR, visuo-ocular reflex. But in case of vestibular hypofunction, when the vestibular system is damaged or there is lesion in vestibular system, this happens slowly. When we move our head to a particular direction, then there is slow saccadic movement of eyeball after a while, and that is called head impulse testing. So head impulse test for vestibular function we do head impulse testing, and for hearing while examining we can have an assessment by just asking, do you feel less sound in this ear? That is sufficient. And in testing part we will do audiometry. So these are the important thing to be in examination. So now something about nystagmus. Few important points about nystagmus. In acute peripheral lesion of vestibular system, there is unidirectional nystagmus. Means the fast phase of the nystagmus defines the direction of the nystagmus. The fast phase of the eye movement moves away from the site of the lesion of the ear. Means if the lesion is in the right ear, then the fast phase of nystagmus will go towards left. So it is when there is acute, in case of acute peripheral vestibular lesion. In case of acute peripheral vestibular lesion, there is unidirectional nystagmus, and the fast phase of the nystagmus is away from the side of the ear in which there is lesion. And so this is in peripheral vestibular lesion there is unidirectional nystagmus, and in case of central vestibular lesion the direction of nystagmus varies with the change of gaze. Means if I am fixing my gaze on Nitish, then the nystagmus might be on the right side, and when I am fixing my gaze to Neha, then my gaze might fix to nystagmus might happen in the right direction or other direction. So when the direction of nystagmus changes with the gaze, it is central vestibular lesion. So this is important point. Nystagmus which is a peripheral vestibular lesion, the nystagmus which will be unidirectional, and its direction will be away from the site of the lesion in the vestibular system. If there is right vestibular, there is lesion in right vestibular system, then the nystagmus will have fast phase of nystagmus or direction of nystagmus will be towards left. So this is about one point about nystagmus. Another important point about nystagmus, niched nystagmus, that is second point about nystagmus. I have already told about first point, that is the peripheral nystagmus will be unidirectional, and the central vestibular lesion will produce nystagmus in either direction. Number one point. And mixed nystagmus is torsional vertical nystagmus. Means there will be torsional component as well as vertical component in nystagmus. So mixed nystagmus, that is torsional vertical nystagmus, is found in peripheral vestibular disorder, whereas pure torsional or pure vertical nystagmus will be found in central vestibular disorders. Okay, this is second point. And third point regarding nystagmus is peripheral nystagmus due to peripheral vestibular disorder can be suppressed by gaze fixation, visual fixation. If you fix the eye on some object, then nystagmus will stop when it is of peripheral vestibular origin. And when there is central vestibular disorder, gaze visual fixation will not suppress the nystagmus. Okay. So in case of peripheral vestibular disorder, visual fixation suppresses the nystagmus. In case of central vestibular disorder, visual fixation does not suppress the nystagmus. And now about head impulse testing, that is assessment of, so eye movement means nystagmus. These were three important points regarding examination of the vertigo from the point of view eye movement. Now about how to assess vestibular function while examining. I have already told that we have to rotate the head by 20 degree and we have to do it very quickly. When the patient is having vestibular hypofunction, then there will be slow catch-up saccadic movement. What is saccadic movement? There are two kind of movement. One is pursuit movement and another is saccadic movement. Pursuit means to change something. When we look something from one point to another point, or when we shift our gaze from one point to another point, then it is called pursuit. Pursuit means follow. When we pursue some moving object, say for a car is going and we are looking at car, we are following the car is moving from here to here to here to here. This is called pursuit movement. And there is saccadic movement, back and forth movement. When there are two objects A and B, and when we move our eye from A to B and B to A, this is called saccadic movement. So in case of vestibular function assessment, we are examining the vestibular function. How we do head rotation test. So it is also called head impulse testing. So rotate quickly by 20 degree from the midline, very quickly. Then in case of unilateral vestibular hypofunction, there will be unilateral slow catch-up saccadic movement. Normally it would have been simultaneously. When we move our gaze from this to this, then our eyeball moves simultaneously in opposite direction. That's why it is maintained in the central position. Had it not been moving in the opposite direction, the gaze would have shifted to one direction. But our gaze is in central position because there is visuo-ocular reflex, which operates simultaneously when there is no vestibular lesion. It operates spontaneously and it moves the eyeball in opposite direction, so that when we move our opposite to the movement of our head, that's why our eyeball remains in the central position. Otherwise it would have been shifted to one side. So that visuo-ocular reflex is weak in case of vestibular function. And how that will be assessed? When we rotate head quickly by 20 degree to one side, then there is slow catch-up saccadic movement. Saccade means moving from one to another, and that is in the opposite to the direction of rotation of the head. If you rotate head of the patient like this, then after a while the eyeball will move slowly from left to right. That is called slow catch-up saccadic movement, that otherwise you would have simultaneously without any notice. So this is called, when there is absence of head impulse test in the presence of acute prolonged vertigo, when there is acute prolonged vertigo In the absence of head impulse test, it shows central lesion. It shows central vestibular lesion. Means there is significance absence of head absence of head impulse sign. Even if the patient is having vertigo and there is no head impulse signs, means upon quick rotation of the head there is no catch-up saccadic movement, then it shows the lesion is central. It is not peripheral vestibular disorder. So mark this word, absence of head impulse sign in acute prolonged vertigo is indicator of central vestibular disorder. This is one point. And last point was here about hearing. In examination, hearing. So very simple to remember. Unilateral hearing loss is a sign of peripheral vestibular disorder, because in central vestibular disorder, if there will be hearing loss, it will be bilateral, because vestibular system, vestibular pathway becomes bilateral by immediately after entering the brain stem, and that's why any lesion in the central part of the vestibular system will produce bilateral hearing loss. So if a patient is having unilateral hearing loss, it indicates peripheral vestibular disorders, and when there is diplopia, dysarthria and ataxia, it is central vestibular disorder. So these are the 5 points in examination part, and those were divided into movement of eye, vestibular function and hearing. And 3 points were dedicated to the nystagmus. One point was dedicated to the vestibular function in head impulse testing, and hearing we don't need any specialized testing while examining, although we do Rinne test and Weber test for hearing. But even by asking for the sake of vertigo and its assessment, we can simply ask patient, and if he says hearing loss in 1 ear, it is peripheral. If the patient is complaining of diplopia, dysarthria, double vision or difficulty in speech or ataxia, then it is a central vestibular disorder. Now few ancillary testings, means supporting testing, although they are not very important, but we should do that. Ancillary test. Number 3 part was ancillary testing, means supporting testing, and we should know about these things because sometimes we might need, and also we should know it for our academic purpose, because in examination we can be asked. Ancillary testing for the assessment of vertigo. Number 1 is audiometry. Number 2 is video nystagmography. Caloric testing. In ENT, you might have studied about assessment of semicircular canal function. Caloric testing, video head impulse testing. When we rotate the head, then movement of the eyeball for catch-up saccade can be video recorded, and that becomes video head impulse testing. Vestibular evoked potential. These are highest modality of testing. You should know vestibular evoked potential and this we should do MRI of internal auditory canal. Here I would like to emphasize this is very important because many times patient of vertigo comes in our OPD and they say their CT scan is normal and the MRI of the brain is normal, but vertigo as such is a vestibular disorder. It is a disorder of vestibular system. Vestibular system is located in our internal ear where there are semicircular canals. So MRI of internal auditory canal. This should be prescribed. Then only we can assess the disorder in vestibular system. So from now onward, whenever a patient of vertigo who complains for a very long time and he has taken medications and treatment from a large number of institutions and yet he has not found the solution for his problem, then we should go for MRI of internal auditory canal. MRI of the brain, not the MRI of the brain, because this is not a disorder of brain parenchyma. It is a disorder of vestibular system, and vestibular system is located in internal ear. There are semicircular canals and horizontal canals. So MRI of the internal auditory canal, this should be kept in mind and this should be prescribed as and when necessary. So ancillary testing means supporting testing for a patient presenting with vertigo can be, although history and examination will clear a large number of things, but we might go for audiometry, video nystagmography, caloric testing, this is for just for information, video head impulse testing, vestibular evoked potential, and MRI of internal auditory canal. And now the most important thing for a clinician, which differentiates one doctor from another doctor and also a doctor from quick, is the differential diagnosis. Actually, the differential diagnosis makes how wise you are as a clinician, because you must know the different conditions which might present with vertigo or simulating the vertigo, and then only you can distinguish, you can reach down to actual diagnosis and cure the patient. So differential diagnosis. Differential diagnosis. Number one, acute prolonged vertigo. Differential diagnosis. Number one, acute prolonged vertigo, also called vestibular neuritis. Acute prolonged vertigo, also called vestibular neuritis. Number two, BPPV means benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Paroxysm means in attacks, not in episodes, not continuously. So benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Number three, vestibular migraine. As a clinician, whenever you find a symptom, then you must have 3-4 things in your mind that these symptoms can be found in these things. For example, if you find a case of breathlessness, then you should think it can be a cardiac cause like myocardial infarction, it can be pulmonary cause like for pneumothorax, and it also you should have in your mind that the patient might have a metabolic cause. Diabetic ketoacidosis too can present with breathlessness. So for every symptoms, 2, 3, 4, and might be more conditions must be in your mind before jumping to a particular diagnosis, and in that way you will not miss out any diagnosis in long term. So differential diagnosis is very important. Acute prolonged vertigo, vestibular neuritis, benign peripheral positional vertigo, vestibular migraine, and fourth is Meniere's disease. You must have studied about Meniere's disease in ENT. Meniere's disease, vestibular schwannoma, also called acoustic neuroma. Bilateral vestibular hypofunction. Bilateral vestibular hypofunction. And seventh is central vestibular disorders. Central vestibular disorder. And number 8, write down by your own. The psychosomatic and functional dizziness. So acute prolonged vertigo, benign positional paroxysmal positional vertigo, vestibular migraine, Meniere's disease, vestibular schwannoma, bilateral vestibular hypofunction, central vestibular disorders, and psychosomatic and functional dizziness. Now, few points regarding each. Number 1, acute prolonged vertigo. Acute prolonged vertigo is caused due to acute peripheral vestibular disorder in one side, means unilateral acute peripheral vestibular disorder causes acute prolonged vertigo, and this vertigo, feeling of vertigo, is because there is asymmetry of input to the central nervous system by two vestibular systems. When there is asymmetric input from the two vestibular sides, two vestibular systems from two ears, then there will be feeling of vertigo. And in case of bilateral vestibular disorder, there is no vertigo, there is imbalance, but there is no vertigo because both sides compensate with each other. So when there is acute peripheral lesion in vestibular system, there will be acute prolonged vertigo, and this vertigo will be accompanied by nausea, vomiting, imbalance, and might be tinnitus, and this vertigo will persist even at rest. Even the patient is at rest, this vertigo will persist, and this vertigo will not change with the change of position, unlike the BPPV. So in BPPV, when there is change of position, there will be vertigo, and in case of acute prolonged vertigo or vestibular neuritis, there will be vertigo even at rest. So vertigo at rest, this should be the diagnosis. Acute prolonged vertigo or vestibular neuritis. It is the inflammation or infection of the vestibular system that causes acute prolonged vertigo. Why it is called prolonged? Because it persists even at rest, and definitely when there is peripheral vestibular disorder, then there will be sensation of nausea, vomiting, tinnitus as well. And now in benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, the most important thing is the duration of this is a brief paroxysm. Means the episode is very brief. It is less than 1 minute. The vertigo will be of less than 1 minute duration, typically 15 to 20 seconds. And only 2 points to remember in BPPV. It is the vertigo is of less than 1 minute duration, typically 15 to 20 seconds. And number 2, always provoked by change of position with respect to change of position of the head with respect to the gravity. Even the patient is rolling on the bed, there will be vertigo. That is called benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. It is very short duration, 15 to 20 seconds, maximum less than 1 minute, and this is always provoked by change of position of the head with respect to gravity, even on rolling on the bed. This will be triggered. Now vestibular migraine. Vestibular migraine, here vertigo is sometimes preceded. Sometimes vertigo precedes the acute migraine attack, but most of the times it happens without the headache or with mild headache. Means sometimes, very rarely, although it is called vestibular migraine, but there is very little like migraine. Sometimes the vertigo is preceded by vertigo precedes the acute migraine attack, but most of the time the vertigo happens without headache or with mild headache. And number 2, its duration will be from hours to days. Hours. It may duration might be from minutes to hours, as I already told, minutes to hours, or from days to weeks. Days to weeks. These are important catching point here. BPPV will be very short duration, less than 1 minute, and always provoked by the position, change of position of the head. And vestibular migraine, this might be of from minutes to hours or days to weeks. Its duration varies, and sometimes it is associated with the typical migraine attack, although it happens even without the headache or with mild headache. Now this condition is important. Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease, it happens also in the Meniere's disease. It is characterized by unilateral sensorineural hearing loss with vertigo. Unilateral sensorineural hearing loss with vertigo. The diagnosis is Meniere's disease, and the typical feature is that there is low frequency hearing loss. Low frequency hearing. It will be of sensorineural duration, sensorineural type, and the low frequency hearing loss. Low frequency sensorineural hearing loss with vertigo. The diagnosis is Meniere's disease. And of course, it can be associated with other oral symptoms like fullness, pressure, tinnitus, or ear pain, fullness, pressure, or tinnitus. So acute oral symptoms along with low frequency sensorineural hearing loss and vertigo. The diagnosis is Meniere's disease, and these things, this low frequency hearing loss and acute oral symptoms distinguishes Meniere's disease from vestibular migraine. In vestibular migraine, there is no hearing loss or acute oral symptoms like pain, ear pain, tinnitus, fullness, or pressure. And vestibular schwannoma. Vestibular schwannoma is also known as acoustic neuroma. It is one of the tumors which is called cerebellopontine angle tumors. Cerebellum and pons के angle पे ये होता है vestibular schwannoma. So vestibular schwannoma is characterized by gradual onset, unilateral sensorineural hearing loss, and vestibular hypofunction. gradual onset, unilateral sensory neural hearing loss, and vestibular hypofunction. So, in case of vestibular sternoma, there is no vertigo. There will be no vertigo in case of vestibular sternoma. Why? Because it is gradual in onset, and when there is gradual, when because of the gradual onset, central nervous system compensates for the loss of vestibular input from that side. So there is no vertigo in case of vestibular sternoma. Very important. When there is vertigo, then it cannot be vestibular sternoma because it is such a gradual process that central nervous system compensates for vestibular loss from one side, from that side. If you have time, then things can be compensated, and that compensated vestibular equilibrium is found in vestibular sternoma, even if there is gradual onset hearing loss. Now the bilateral vestibular hypofunction. Again, in bilateral vestibular hypofunction, when there is bilateral vestibular hypofunction, then there will be no vertigo. Vertigo happens only when the two vestibular systems give two different informations the body. Actually, vestibular system gives the sense of position to the body, and when our vestibular system, central nervous system, receives same signal about our position, then it is in equilibrium. When same thing, when two different signals enter to our central nervous system by two vestibular systems, then there is asymmetry of input of signals, and that leads to vertigo. But when there is bilateral vestibular hypofunction, then there will be no asymmetry of vestibular input to the central nervous system, and patient will not feel vertigo, but he will feel imbalance because of the vestibular hypofunction. There is inadequate information about our position. So that leads to imbalance. So in case of bilateral vestibular hypofunction, there will be imbalance, especially in dark. And another thing, there will be oscillopsia in head movement. When we move our head, then the things appear oscillating because the information is not very updated. There is hypofunction, so there will be oscillopsia on head movement, and there will be imbalance, especially in dark, in case of bilateral vestibular hypofunction. So if a patient tells you that I feel vertiginous or feel dizziness, especially in dark, लाइन कट जाने के बाद अचानक से हम भड़बड़ा के गिर जाते हैं, तो ये हुआ बायलैटरल वेस्टिबुलर हाइपोफंक्शन. उसको क्योंकि अब आप बता रहे थे ना कि उसका जो वेस्टिबुलर इक्विलिब्रियम सिस्टम हम लोग का जो बैलेंस है वो तीन चीज से बना होता है. हमारे आई के मूवमेंट से, और वेस्टिबुलर सिस्टम का जो अपना है ईयर के अंदर, और फिर हियरिंग, ये तीनों का मिल करके. तो जैसे ही विजुअल इनपुट लाइट से खत्म हुआ, तो वेस्टिबुलर सिस्टम तो पहले से वीक है, तो वो कंपनसेट नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो क्या होगा कि वहाँ पे इम्बैलेंस हो जाएगा. तो बायलैटरल वेस्टिबुलर हाइपोफंक्शन will lead to imbalance, especially in dark, and there will be oscillopsia upon movement of head. And central vestibular disorders. What are the central disorders, vestibular disorders, which can cause vertigo? So we should know about their name, important conditions. Central vestibular disorder. Central vestibular disorders leading to stroke, leading to central vestibular disorders causing vertigo. Conditions can be stroke, both ischemic and hemorrhagic. Demyelination. One important demyelinating disorder is multiple sclerosis. Tumors of the central nervous system that also can cause central vestibular disorder, and for the neurodegenerative disorders. Neurodegenerative disorders like Huntington's chorea, Alzheimer's disease. So central vestibular disorders leading to vertigo can be due to stroke. Even in a stroke, there can be vertigo. Both ischemic and hemorrhagic. Ischemic and hemorrhagic. Demyelination, stroke, demyelination, tumors and neurodegenerative disorders. These are the conditions which can cause central vestibular disorders, and that might present with vertigo. And of course, you will be having associated with stroke. You will have limb weakness, lethargia. In case of demyelination, you will find symptoms of multiple sclerosis. That is, in case of tumors, you also can present with focal neurological weakness, seizure, and neurodegenerative disorders, aphasia, acalculia, different kinds of features of dementia, like impairment of higher mental functions like speech, decision making, coherence of a speech. These things can be found. So these are central vestibular disorders. Important are stroke, demyelination, tumors, and neurodegenerative conditions which can present with central vestibular disorders leading to vertigo. And last differential diagnosis is which we find frequently, but we should not jump on it directly. So excluding other things, we should come here. Psychosomatic and functional dizziness. What is not here vertigo, it is psychosomatic dizziness. So what is the characteristics of psychosomatic and functional dizziness? The patient is having a chronic feeling of imbalance and disequilibrium which is present at rest, and it becomes worse upon standing and moving, and its duration is typically 3 months or more. If dizziness, so-called vertigo, is present for more than 3 months, and it is fluctuating in nature. Most important word that I forget to tell you, it is fluctuating imbalance or disequilibrium. Means the degree of dizziness varies from moment to moment, from days to days, hours to hours, from weeks to weeks. If it is variable in nature, कभी कभी बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, कभी कभी तो बहुत थोड़ा थोड़ा होता है, ऐसा नहीं होता है. जब आपको वर्टिगो जो वेस्टिबुलर सिस्टम का डिजॉर्डर रहेगा, तो वर्टिगो आपका उसका इंटेंसिटी बहुत ज़्यादा वेरी नहीं करेगा. ये लेकिन साइकोसोमैटिक वाला, और ये यूजुअली पाया जाता है मेजर डिप्रेसिव डिजॉर्डर्स में, एंजाइटी डिजॉर्डर्स में एंड पैनिक डिजॉर्डर्स में. मेजर डिप्रेसिव डिजॉर्डर्स, एंजाइटी एंड पैनिक, इवन एंसस होने पर भी डिजीनेस होता है. तो ये चीज लेकिन मोर देन 3 मंथ्स का ड्यूरेशन होगा और फ्लक्चुएटिंग इन नेचर होगा. सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है फ्लक्चुएटिंग होगा एंड वर्स ऑन स्टैंडिंग. खड़ा उसको काम ही नहीं करना है ना साइकेट्री वाले को. उसको घूम फिर के साइकेट्री का मरीज कौन होता है जो काम नहीं करना चाहता है ना. आइदर वो इनसिक्योर फील करता है कि हम काम करेंगे तो फेल हो जाएंगे तो लोग हंसेगा, तो उसके वजह से काम ही नहीं करता है। परीक्षा नहीं देंगे तो फेल भी नहीं करेंगे लेकिन नहीं देंगे तो फिर जो पास हो जाएगा परीक्षा देके फिर उसको देख करके झाँकेंगे भी ना, क्योंकि झाँकने से तो कोई रोक नहीं सकता है, उनको ऑटोमेटेड रिस्पॉन्स है आदमी का। तो वही है, इसमें क्या होगा ना कि जब स्टैंडिंग पोजीशन में आएगा तो ये इसका बढ़ जाएगा। So, so I think this was, and once again I should summarize what I told, that vertigo is a bit complex thing, and that's why you should read also. But I have tried to simplify it. Vertigo is not a real thing. First of all, it's a feeling. It is an illusion of movement of self or environment, because neither the environment is moving, neither the patient complaining of vertigo that moves. No one has seen a patient of vertigo as dancing. डांस तो नहीं करता रहता है, बोलता ही है ना कि हमको महसूस हो रहा है कि हमको चक्कर आ रहा है, लेकिन चक्कर आ रहा है तो आप थोड़ा ना ऐसे ऐसे घूम रहा होता है, तो खड़ा है अपने स्टैटिक होता है, तो न वो घूम रहा है न सराउंडिंग घूम रहा है, और दोनों में से ही ना कंप्लेन होता है। वर्टिगो मीन्स movement of self feeling of movement of self or the environment. But the truth is that neither the environment, neither the person complaining of vertigo is moving. So it is an illusion. It is not a real thing, and it has to be. So a proper history should be taken, and in history, two important things are there: duration and associated symptoms. If the duration is of seconds to minute, it can be BPPV and postural hypotension. If it is from hours, minutes to hours, it can be vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. If it is days to weeks, vestibular migraine and psychosomatic and functional dizziness. And associated symptoms, if there is unilateral hearing loss along with pain in ear, tinnitus, fullness or pressure in the ear, it is peripheral vestibular disorder. If the patient is having diplopia, dysarthria or ataxia, it is central vestibular disorder. How to assess the vertigo? We go for eye movement, then we assess vestibular function, and then hearing. Assess for eye movement we go for nystagmus. When there is unidirectional nystagmus always happening in one direction, then it is peripheral. When the direction of nystagmus changes from gaze to gaze, it is central. When upon fixation of gaze, when upon fixing on some object, the nystagmus is suppressed, it is peripheral. If it is not suppressed, it is central. Okay, and now how to assess the vestibular function. For assessment of vestibular function, we do rapid head rotation, and when there is vestibular hypofunction, there will be slow saccadic movement, means changing, means slow catch-up saccadic movement. Saccadic means pointing from one movement of eyeball from one point to another. Slow saccadic movement upon head rotation in opposite to the direction of head. It is when this is when this is present, it is vestibular hypofunction. It denotes a vestibular hypofunction. And in case when there is acute vertigo and there is absence of this head impulse sign, then the site of lesion will be central in origin. Okay, and for hearing loss, we can ask the patient, and then we have ancillary testing that is for theoretical purposes, and definitely in future they will come to our use. So ancillary testing which we are supportive testing, audiometry, video nystagmography, cardiac testing, then video head impulse testing, visual vestibular evoked potentials, and MRI of the internal auditory canal. So these are the testing. And what are the differential diagnosis? Different conditions in which vertigo or vertigo-like conditions might be there. acute prolonged vertigo or vestibular neuritis. Number 2, BPPV, benign positional vertigo, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Number 3 is vestibular migraine. Number 4 is Meniere's disease. 5th is vestibular schwannoma. 6th is bilateral vestibular hyperfunction. 7th is central vestibular disorder. And 6th is psychosomatic and functional dizziness. So these 8 conditions should be in your mind, and when you read it again, many things will appear. Usually the duration and associated symptoms can differentiate one from in any differential diagnosis of any system. Associated symptoms are very important. That will help you to distinguish one condition from another. So this is sufficient for today. Thank you.